Hello, my name is Caroline DeLinks, and I'll be doing this presentation on landscape changes due to the consequences of climate change. So I'll be discussing all the ways that climate change will impact the physical landscapes and the Earth's cycles, both globally and more specifically on a regional scale. Some of the ideas may seem to contrast, for example, the increase of droughts as well as increased precipitation. However, all the ideas are possible and can occur at different times. The effects I'll be speaking of may occur in the next few decades or the next few millennia. Thus, there's a wide variety of ways that climate change will impact our world. So, climate change impacts on landscape on a global scale. So, I'm starting with sea level rise. The sea rises in response to warming temperatures because ground ice melts and runs into the ocean, and water expands when it warms as well, because the water molecules gain energy and move more rapidly. So the sea level is predicted to raise between 47 and 73 centimeters by 2100, which is a lot. And sea level rise can take away lots of properties and land that will cost lots of money to try to replace, or lots of money lost from their complete destruction and inability to rebuild. If we were to try to rebuild the businesses and infrastructure that was lost from sea level rise, it would cost a lot of money and increase the carbon footprint from the building itself, the soil runoff due to construction, the burning of fossil fuels during the construction process, and as well as the materials that we'll need, which will be taken from the environment. Hurricanes are becoming more destructive with climate change as well, as their storm surges worsen. Storm surges are the walls of water that storms blow atop the shore at tremendous speeds. So these will continue to get larger as the sea level increases and destroy lots of property and land by the coast. It goes hand in hand with sea level rise. Evaporation and droughts will increase as the rise of temperature increases, because warmer air holds more moisture, and this increases the water vapor concentration, and water vapor does not condense and precipitate as easily in higher temperatures. This creates drier, harder, less permeable soil, which is even more difficult to be absorbed by water. So the more precipitation will occur and less will be absorbed into the dried out landscape. More examples: ocean acidification. The ocean absorbs a large portion of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and with the excess of this greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, the more the ocean will absorb. Sorry for the typo right there. Carbon dioxide reacts with the liquid environment by creating carbonic acid in the equation H2O plus CO2, so water plus carbon dioxide equals H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. The addition of carbonic acid to the ocean at these increased levels will lower the pH and thus acidify the ocean, which has tremendous impacts on the marine life and ecosystems. And the pH is currently the lowest it's been in 2 million years, which is not good. Again, precipitation will also increase as greenhouse gases and surface temperatures rise, as does the rate of evaporation, as I already talked about, and precipitation has to balance this out, so that'll increase. When more moisture-filled air moves over land and into the storm system, it can also produce more rain and snow, which can create crop damage, flood risks, and soil erosion, leading to more runoff into the ocean. Nuisance flooding goes side by side with the sea level rise too, as it occurs from more frequent high tide flooding, which breaches the sea walls and into areas that don't normally flood. And again, that will impact homes, businesses, public locations, and the economy, as money will be lost from such destruction, and more money will have to be put into the rebuilding of the destroyed locations. Heat waves, they continue to raise as well with climate change, because high pressure circulation in the atmosphere acts like a dome, trapping the heat at the surface and increases the likelihood of extremely hot nights and days. For example, in Europe, last year, July 19th, it was one of the hottest heat waves that has occurred, with a temperature reaching 104.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Climate change will also have an impact on ecosystem services. So ecosystems may be lost due to the changes that will occur from the climate change. And a lot of ecosystems provide services that benefit us. For example, mangroves act as natural coastal barriers for storms and waves and erosion. The loss of such ecosystems would mean the loss of their services, and lots of resources and money would need to be spent in order to create man-made systems to replace what has been lost. Unmanaged ecosystems are bound to be impacted, and these are ecosystems on the earth that we remain untouched by us. A lot of ecosystems, we play a role in trying to maintain some kind of, like a species not going extinct, for example, so we'll manipulate it a little bit. But there are many ecosystems where we can't do this or don't do this, and in these places, species can go extinct because we won't have any way to assist. And that becomes a huge issue if keystone species go extinct, and those are species that maintain a natural balance of ecosystems that we rely on. So that is pretty dangerous, I guess. It's not really the best word. So more specific examples of climate change impacting landscapes on a regional scale. The Gulf Stream can be impacted abruptly from climate change. When I say abruptly, not like within the next few years, but maybe a few hundred years. Because with climate change comes the warming of the environment, as we know, and this in turn leads to the rapid disintegration of ice sheets. Right now we're looking at Greenland and West Antarctic ice sheets that'll be heavily impacted. And when these ice sheets melt, it adds a lot of fresh water to the ocean, which reduces its salinity and density, making it so the waters aren't heavy enough to sink. When they can't sink properly, it messes up the hypothermine circulation, which brings cold water around the globe. So the inability for the colder water to be transported will disrupt the climate even more and could prevent the Gulf Stream from flowing, causing it to shut down. If that were to occur, it would mean colder winters and summers in Europe as well as other regions, crop production loss in Great Britain, and the ocean sequestration could decrease, leaving more heat trapping carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And another example is permafrost and methane thawing. Permafrost are pieces of land that remain completely frozen for years. Since many of the land that is permafrost has been around for millennia, it's one of Earth's greatest stores of global warming gases because of the organic material that has died and become trapped within the ice. This, when it gets trapped within the ice, pauses the decomposition process and thus the secretion of the carbon dioxide from the decomposing organic matter. That doesn't get released since it gets frozen into the permafrost layers. Methane is also trapped within the ice of permafrost, another greenhouse gas. And if permafrost continues to melt as it is, researchers suggest that over 92 billion tons of carbon could be emitted into the atmosphere by 2100. As permafrost melts, the water underground that had been frozen will expand, as we talked about how water warms, it expands. And in colder places like Alaska, Canada, and northern Russia, infrastructure will begin to collapse as the ground beneath the roads and cities swell, which can cause the earth to crack and cave in. Around 35 million people live in a permafrost zone, and all of these individuals will feel the repercussions of permafrost melting from losing their homes, roads, cities, or even increase in taxes as cities attempt to mitigate the slow damage. Here are my citations. Whew. All right. Thank you for watching.